So without further ado, I'd like to bring on Sarah to talk about what the FVM is and how it works and what's next and everything else you need to know about the Filecoin Virtual Machine. So please welcome Sarah.
Thank you, Karthik. Hey everyone, good to meet all of you. Dialing in over here from East Seoul. So if any of you are here in East Seoul and you're staying up to watch this, welcome, hi. Also hi to everyone from around the world. I think we've seen each other probably a few times now. If you've been following the ETH Global Hackathons, my team is the developer advocate team for FVM, the Filecoin Virtual Machine, and we've been to multiple ETH Global hackathons now. Denver was a really big one that just went by, and we'll be in Paris as well. So looking forward to meet all of you. I thought through today for HackFS, and we're super excited for HackFS because it is the first hackathon that FVM is going into that combines with all the other protocol labs teams that have provided great infra and products and putting it all together in a hackathon. So we've been holding FVM specific hackathons for a while now, and we've been doing a lot of these tutorials and documentations and presentations. And I was thinking, what's kind of new that we can share? I think we've come to a point where we actually launched 2.5 months ago now. And a lot of things have progressed since then. There's a lot of new things that we very quickly shipped right after launch, where we realized these are things that developers are asking for. And we also have a lot more new things coming up as well. So it kind of feels like we're going right into our next phase, and super excited to be able to share that with everyone. Yeah. So I'll cover today Filecoin Virtual Machine, what, why, and what next. I might be a little bit more summarized on the what and the why, just because we've gone through that with a few presentations and we have resources to share that with you. So I'm going to spend a little bit more time on what's coming up next and get everyone really excited on what they can build with us for the next month. Oh, also a quick shout out. If you have not followed us yet, do follow us on the FVM Dev Twitter account. We give updates. My teammate Matt has been amazing in building up our socials, and he gives a lot of great updates about our product as we go along. So stay tuned there. He's also doing interviews with hackers on site. So really, really fun stuff. And we have a Twitch stream, which is the Phil Builder stream. So just a shout out that every Thursday, except for during a large hackathon like that, where everyone is in the middle of the hackathon workshops. But every Thursday, we do try to keep to a schedule where we live demo and break things. Mostly it's me breaking and Matt fixing, but you can see us try out new things and bring on new partners and hackers as well. And, if you submit for the hackathon, you could also be one of the guests for the session. Cool. So I'm going to cover what the FVM is. I've also added a link over there. I know it's a little bit summarized, but let me run through it. And I also have a QR code over there if you want to go deep dive into a little bit more of an explanation for a talk that I did at ETH Tokyo recently on what the FVM is. So I have been getting a lot of questions from developers, can you clarify what the FVM actually is? So I thought to put out some key points here that we have been answering to developers so far, and I hope this really helps to clarify it for everyone. So the FVM is a runtime environment for smart contracts on Filecoin. It sits on top of the Filecoin network. It is a feature of the Filecoin network. It is not a separate product on its own. It is a layer 1 on top of Filecoin, which is a layer 0. It is also fully EVM compatible. So we have a fully feature complete Ethereum JSON RPC API, and that is how the FVM is fully EVM compatible today. So all the tools that you are super used and familiar with using as an EVM developer can be used for the FVM as well. So things like Hardhat, Foundry, we actually just put out a Foundry starter kit, so that's really cool from my teammate Zach. MetaMask, using your OX address, you barely have to even think about what the conversion of the address will look like into Filecoin, for example. So all these things are things that we've figured out on the back end. So for you, it should be super seamless to use all the tools that you are familiar with. FVM as a whole is also intended to be VM agnostic. So today, the first foreign runtime for the FVM that we are focusing on is EVM, because clearly the Ethereum community is just super robust and is super exciting ideas and developers in that space. And so we wanted to provision that first. And so we have the EVM today. But tomorrow it could be something else, and we're hoping to build out or build with builders as well to help us build more VMs that can be compatible with other chains as well. We are also live on mainnet since March 14, 2023. So if you took part in that event, it was Pi Day. It was super fun and exciting. great if you joined us on that day, and super easy to remember the date as well. So kind of looking back, a lot has happened. A lot is on this slide. I kind of want to go through it. I just want to take a moment to kind of think through it. The last time I think I was on ETH Global TV was back in November with Hack FEVM. That was like the first FVM specific hackathon that we had, or the first hackathon that FVM was going into. And it was super hacky. We had like, a lot of developers like gave us really good feedback. We were very aware that we were putting out a product that was almost fully complete, but not really. And there were features that we wanted to test with developers, and we got really, really good feedback then. But we have come such a long way since then. And since launch itself, a lot also has happened, since the Pi Day that we launched the mainnet. So some things that have happened, adoption has gone up. We have about 2.9 mil filled today in total contract balance on Filecoin mainnet. And we have about 175K transactions that have taken place so far. And we also have about 1.1K unique contracts deployed to date, coming from about close to 200 unique deployer addresses. That's like amazing, right? And we really want to thank everyone that has been deploying the mainnet, working with us, our early builders. Like, it's just super exciting right now. If you want to check out these stats, they are from our Starboard, our partner Starboard, the FVM Starboard Explorer. So you can actually head over to that Explorer and look at these contract analysis and kind of see how the FVM is doing if you are curious to see what people are, how the statistics are tracking week on week. Things that we've shipped, we have about 10 dApp integration partners, and we have many more partners as well, of course. But during this hackathon, I know this is of interest to everyone. These are also coming back around. You see them as sponsors during this hackathon. We've integrated these partners to come on board to mainnet, and as well as to provide support for testnet, so that it gives you a richer dApp development experience with FVM. We've shipped new features on our block explorers, including contract verification and smart contract analysis. So again, thank you to all our great Explorer partners out there, and many more that are in development right now. We're hoping to really build a much richer ecosystem around the smart contract space on Filecoin. We have the FVM Foundry and DataDAO starter kit that we've pushed out since launch. So that should really help developers with getting a template to start moving along. And we've also gotten a Docker image for Lotus and Boost, making it super easy to set up storage and retrieval on a local net, so that you can keep testing before you put it to testnet and so on. So that has made it much faster for people to adopt FVM and test out our client contract for storage. So kudos to that was shipped out as well. We've also transitioned testnet from hyperspace to calibration. So if you haven't seen the message on the Slack channels or on our Twitter, just a heads up, we have deprecated the previous testnet that the good old trusty hyperspace testnet that we've been using since back in November. And now we are transitioning over to calibration testnet, which very much mimics the mainnet, the Filecoin mainnet as well. The goal of this was really to allow developers to simulate what mainnet conditions would be like and be able to test all these what you would consider experimental features with FVM on your dApp solutions to make sure it works in a production environment first. And then once it deploys to mainnet, it should work seamlessly because we worked in calibration net, and that's why we have moved over. So a lot more documentation and tutorials that will be coming up in the workshops, but there are some slight differences between the two testnets over there. So a huge transition over there, migration, thanks to my team. And we have Redfill that has shipped, thanks to Glyph and Alex Reed, that has kind of put that, helped to ship that out and has been used by quite a few teams at this point. We've also had staking pools that launch, so that was super exciting. And we also have more cookbook resources that have come up over time for people to get ideas and get a better sense, or maybe kind of see what the FVM team is thinking about how you could use FVM itself. And I'll touch on that in a little bit. We've also had tremendous builder momentum. We've had about 3 or so ETH partner hackathons and even more hackathons outside of that since the launch itself, which is just insane thinking about it because it's only been like 2.5 months. But we've had hundreds of FVM projects that have shipped, that have been submitted since then. So really seeing really strong interest there. And we've also had an FVM mainnet builder cohort where teams have shipped MVP solutions. We have about 27 of them that have also deployed to mainnet. Thanks so much to our cohort. We, like myself and my DX team, were very, very close to this cohort. So thanks for everyone for participating and building with us for 6 months and trying out all these new features and giving us feedback and building out different tools with us for FVM. And now you can all use it in the hackathon. So this will all be in the hackathon cheat sheet. And some of these teams have also become partners as well, which is awesome. And then also from that amazing cohort, 40 of their smart contract templates have actually been uploaded to cookbook.dev, which is a smart contract hub that we've been working very closely to. So shout out to them as well. So that makes it even easier for you in this hackathon to adopt those templates and kind of try it out for yourself and see and build upon what other teams have done. So they walk so that we could run, which I don't know, which is just great. And we've also had about 20 teams that have progressed from being in a builder cohort, going from hackathon to builder cohort to then being accepted into FVM focused accelerators. So we have some accelerator partners out there, OV, GPC, Longhash, and a few other accelerator partners as well that have not had fully FVM focused accelerator cohorts, but have taken in quite a significant number of FVM teams into their cohorts as well. So a lot of if you think about it as a whole builder momentum, we're really excited to see all these great ideas come out from hackathons and then progress onwards to become really sustainable products and solutions for themselves in the ecosystem. So yeah, just huge momentum since we launched 2.5 months ago, which is honestly kind of insane. So you have no excuse in a month to build something really cool. All right. Okay, so why FVM? So now we're going to touch on the why. Again, if you're interested to read more of a deep dive, there's a QR code over there that you can watch the talk on, and I can go a little bit deeper into where FVM stands in the Filecoin master plan, why it came in, why the Filecoin network needs it, and so on. But to summarize, the FVM is meant to bring on-chain programmability to the Filecoin network and achieve step number 3 in the Filecoin master plan. So for those of you who have been in the Filecoin ecosystem, this is a test for you. What is the Filecoin master plan? Well, very simply, the first one was to set up a storage provider network and a decentralized storage network. The second one is to onboard important data onto the network. And the last one would be to compute that data. And that is where the FVM comes in. So we are really here to achieve step 3 in the Filecoin master plan. So really exciting stuff because it's only up from here. And then to break that down a little bit, because I do get questions around what does on-chain programmability mean? To us, that means to enable custom logic to be written around storage and retrieval workflows. Again, Filecoin is fully focused on storage and retrieval. And so what you can, there's a ton that you can do with all this data, right? You could write, you could decide how you want those workflows to be automated or to be event-driven. It's up to you. So that's what the FVM is really meant to do. And we think that because data is so important in today's world, that can unlock a lot of opportunities for developers and different solutions out there. And then also, I always get the question around why use FVM that is EVM compatible rather than just using EVM alone. Well, the main point here is that it will enable custom logic and storage capabilities to be in a native environment, right? Rather than you writing your EVM smart contract and then writing to a separate storage platform, which you might not have much control over, you can actually be able to customize it as much as you want and have everything within a native environment, which makes a huge difference when you actually deploy or implement your application, because then it leads to a significant improvement in terms of performance, in terms of cost, and so on. So that is really the key point as to why moving on to FVM, especially for storage-focused use cases, would be super great to use with EVM, rather than just EVM alone. And lastly, to enable layer 2 storage-focused solutions to be developed at web scale. This is really the vision that we have. If you think about Web 2 and what, for example, AWS allows today, that's what we hope to be able to do with a ton of data and being able to compute that data as well. Okay, so that's kind of the TLDR on why. So now we've covered the what and the why, and we're going to kind of talk about what next. So today I was at ETH and I had a hacker come up to me and a friend that came out and asked me kind of want to know what actually does FVM solve. So I'm going to go a little bit into that and touch on 2 areas that we are thinking about very deeply these few days. So for us, there are a few resources over here where you can see how we're thinking about it. We have 3 key resources over here, and these will be in the hackathon cheat sheet. You can check them out for ideas. I've shared some of them into the Discord so far, and I can keep sharing or answering questions. We have a lot of mentors to help you out here. But 3 key resources. One would be Data plus FVM. over here as the first one. So that will go deep into things like programmable storage markets, data DAOs. If you're really focused on the storage component of your solution, what can you build with FVM today? So that goes super deep into that. And then we have a solutions list, which is kind of the current ideas that we have and the workflows that we're thinking around how we can use FVM. These kind of go across the board in many different ways. So it's not a dumping list, but we have a lot of different ideas about how you can build with FVM, and we write out detailed workflows that you can go expand on and build for your projects. And then lastly, we have an even broader and more high level categories of what you could possibly build with FVM. So that would be our request for startups resource, which some of you might be familiar with. It's been around for a while, but these are really broad ideas on what we think people can grow in that space. So do check all these resources out, from super deep to super high level, and see where you and your team want to build in. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna go a little bit, double click a little bit into two areas. One would be programmable storage markets, and one would be data DAOs. And the reason why I want to double click into these is because I think that these are really areas that is where FVM really shines, right? So if you're thinking about using FVM, having a storage focus is going to make your app have that unique value prop. So I'm going to touch a little bit on this. On programmable storage markets, there are a few basic building blocks over here. This is within the data plus FVM resource that I just shared earlier on. I'm going to walk through them and then kind of get your brain juices flowing around these, right? So around building blocks, you can think about FVM being able to enable storage deal creation on the Filecoin network. So before the FVM was introduced, storage deal creation was something that developers themselves wouldn't really interact with. You wouldn't actually really interact with the Filecoin protocol as well. And if you wanted to run this process on your own, it does require a lot of steps, and it does require a lot of deep technical understanding. The process is, well, TLDR, pretty long, right? So with storage deal creation, with FVM, it allows a storage deal to be proposed maybe automatically, or maybe you could key in your parameters and you set it to be event driven, and it can actually propose a storage deal to the storage providers using a smart contract. And once that whole process is completed, with the smart contract doing it for you, it can actually generate a deal ID and return it to your application or to the user, to the client themselves. So storage deal creation, automating that process is a big building block that we hope to see more of in projects. The other one that we're interested in is data replication. So yes, you store your data once, but again, it's a huge decentralized storage network. You might not just want to store it with one storage provider. You might want to replicate your data across a few storage providers, because if one drops, then at least you have a few backups, right? So the ability to replicate a piece of data X number of times, depending on how many you need, across storage providers that you trust, or whoever it is that you choose to select, is going to be super important as well. So we're interested to see how you could use FVM to interact with the protocol, know that maybe a storage deal has only been replicated like twice and you want it more, and how can it automatically replicate that for you? So that's another basic building block that we're interested in seeing. Storage provider selection, being able to select storage providers that, for example, GDPR policies that you want to meet. How can you be able to automatically select storage providers that are in a certain geography that you want to work with, or maybe fulfill certain criteria that you have, and allow you to make the storage deal even faster? Again, these are all composable. So it could be a solution that even includes the first three things that I talked about. So think about how you could build like maybe a huge dashboard that can do something like that, or a platform that is, really an enhanced programmable storage platform. And then really quickly, we have storage deal renewal. Again, knowing that your deal is almost close to expiry, and how can you renew that automatically? These are also things to think about. Aggregation, thinking about how you could have, like, let's say, so today on the Filecoin network, there is a certain capacity of storage, that a certain data size that would be more attractive for storage providers to accept your deal proposal for. So if you have a smaller piece of data, it would need to be aggregated into a larger deal size first before you can propose and have storage providers to pick that up. Now, what happens if you want to retrieve your one piece of data out of 100 pieces of data, and then return it to your client, or you want to just renew for that specific piece of data? So these are things to think about when it comes to aggregation, and we see that as a huge opportunity in the programmable market space, because users come with all kinds of data sizes, and we want to be able to have solutions for that. Yeah, so think about Filecoin today with a storage provider network being like this huge infrastructure, and being like a factory warehouse. Whereas like when we have aggregation, it's like kind of like the reseller and the retailer in the middle that is able to provide that service. So we kind of want to see a lot more in the aggregation space. And then I will go a little bit into data DAOs in the next slides, but before that, I want to show a quick example of what it can mean to have a storage market. So I'm just taking an example as like, take it as one of your alumni from a previous hackathon. This is the Data House project. They actually built a really cool all-in-one solution that incorporated different building blocks that I mentioned earlier. Of course, back then the tech was a little bit different, so there were certain things they couldn't include. But they built an all-in-one storage platform over here, and that was actually a really powerful platform. So you could think about examples like that. And then moving on to data DAOs, this is also in Data plus FVM and has more of a write-up, but I get a lot of questions around what do you mean by data DAOs, right? So really quickly, a data DAO is a DAO as we know it that is focused on a very important data set. So you have like a really large data set that you want to be able to manage, renew, persist, be perpetually stored, control access to. So you can do many different things with that DAOs. So we've actually lent a lot of thinking. Our product team has done a great job of providing more of a guidance or a framework to think about data DAOs. So if you think about it as a layer 2, which is the base, a layer 1, which is the base, which would be persistent and perpetual storage, kind of similar to what I spoke about for programmable storage market earlier on. So you could take those composable building blocks and put it into a data DAO to make sure that that important data set can be renewed and replicated and so on. And then you have a layer 2 on top of that, which you can think about governance and incentivization, either through providing tokens that people can earn as incentives, or just to fuel like a different action within the DAO, or it could be tokens to use for governance to then decide how the data is going to be managed, or it could be an endowment fund that could continuously fund the renewal of your data. So a lot more thinking in that space, and I know this is something that people have asked for since previous hackathons, and they want to see like it's a very new concept, right? And so this is something that is very unique to FVM. And I think if you build a product or a solution here, it's going to have a huge like market space, and it's going to be very, very different than the market. So we're very interested to see data DAOs be built. And then really quickly, I want to show an example of a data DAO. Again, from an early builder that has been just fantastic. She's also now a mentor, which is great. So this was actually SPN DAO, formerly known as Spin DAO, and now it's called Dallin. It was from the Hack FEVM hackathon way back, and they actually had this really cool example of taking people's credit card data and putting it into, contributing it into a data set as part of a DAO, and then providing access control on top of the data set, so that maybe companies and marketing companies that want to access your data could then pay the DAO's endowment fund to access the data, and then the users could get directly paid for their data as well. So that's a really good example of a data DAO in a real world scenario. So these are things that you can think about for examples of how you want to build, like how you're going to solve real world problems with a data DAO. Cool. So kind of giving you a little bit of an idea there on things that are unique to FVM. And of course, you can build almost anything that you want with FVM, especially anything to do with data. To have a rich dApp environment, we've actually onboarded and integrated a lot of partners over here. So again, I realize this looks like a trivia board of you to guess what partners these are. Shout it out in the chat if you know them, so you can help shout them out, because I didn't put the titles in here. But they are mostly sponsors, and they all have integrated with FVM, and you can use them within your solution as well. So it makes for a much richer dApp ecosystem, and many more of these partner integrations are going to be coming up very soon. Okay, and then lastly, what's next for FVM? A lot of things, but I think clearly from the product side, things that we are super interested in right now is working on proof of data segment inclusion. We call it PODSI. What that actually refers to is, remember how I talked about if you have a small data piece within a larger aggregated data deal, how are you able to prove that your small piece of data has been stored? And how do you know where your data is? How are you able to pull it out to then renew in a separate deal and do whatever you want with it, but know where it is within that larger segment? So PODSI is one big thing we're thinking about. Decentralized aggregated dev tools. We're super interested to see developers, and maybe even in this hackathon, build your own decentralized aggregator. We have a few centralized aggregators today that allow developers or clients to upload their small data, but we'll love to see people build their own and think about decentralized solutions for this as well. And then we're also thinking of building more stars and more dev tooling, and maybe some platforms as well on our end for replication, repair, renewal of your data. FVM as a whole, and not pertaining to the EVM compatible FVM, but we're also planning on scoping out for native WASM actors to be built. So that would be a whole different type of FVM and more to come on that. We're also working on a lot more partner integrations to come in. We hear your ask for gasless transactions and so on. So looking to build some of those partnerships and integrate more for a richer depth experience. Some of them might come in during the hackathon. We don't know. We hope to bring those in and maybe help you along this month-long hack. And then lastly, more dev tooling from the DX team to help you with more docs, tutorials, and so on. So a lot more is coming up for FVM. Super excited. We moved, as you can see, in 2.5 months. So many things have happened. More can happen during the hackathon. So definitely keep an eye out and keep talking to us in the Discord channel. Cool. And then where should you begin? This is a really simple QR code. Everything that I talked about should be in here. We have docs, a hackathon cheat sheet that's super easy to use, more ideas and grants and hackathons coming up as well. For HackFS, do look out for the storage and retrieval series that's coming up. So my colleague Matt, as well as Hong Hao and Long Fei will be covering a 3-part series on storage and retrieval. They will go deeper into the tools and tutorials and demos on how you can build some of the programmable storage market components that I talked about earlier on so that you can use it within your project. So this should happen within next week. And then applications to build with FVM, we have my colleague Zach has built up quite a few starter kits that you could use as templates. So he'll be covering that coming Monday as well. So you could see how what starter kit you want to fork to then build your project from there. Okay, and then that's it for me. That was a lot. I mean, I tried to make it simple, but it's still a lot of things because super exciting things are happening with FVM. But again, thank you from the whole team as well as really close partners that we work with. Again, this is like, and it's not just everyone on this page, it's way more people. But again, thank you so much for building with FVM.